can't just leave.
Protecting the church is more important than family.
All right. Oh, good. I have schmutz on me. Now it's time to get super personal. For those of you who read the blog that I referenced in the first video, it's on my blog, ragingbuddha.net. It's right there, the link. You can click on that. But let me just say the preview of that story isn't in the blog, and I'm going to give you a taste of that. And this is relevant because growing up in Scientology, you get a lot of wackadoodle ideas about sex in general because they are obsessed with it, okay? Sex, 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 sex. I don't even know how many processes ask you specifically about sex. That would be an interesting project for someone out there to add that all up. But they are, I shouldn't say they, L. Ron Hubbard and Scientologists are obsessed with sex, okay? And it's usually with sex that someone else is having. Because if you're obsessed with sex, then you have a problem in Scientology and you have to go handle that. So, but people who are interrogating you about it apparently are not perverts. They're helping you out. Anyway, leading up to my grandiose exit from Scientology and getting to the RPF, here's a little bit of the story. I grew up in a divorced home, like so many Americans do. And my mom made it very clear that Scientology was my choice. When I choose to do Scientology, or if I ever chose to do Scientology, that would be up to me. My father, on the other hand, there was no choice. I was going to be an auditor, I was going to be in the Sea Org, and I was going to become an officer in the Sea Org. And that was it. And possibly get married and maybe have a kid, but mostly be in the Sea Org and be an officer. That was his number one goal for me. So here you have it. Two different things. Also, my mom, who grew up in San Francisco, and I partially grew up there, was very liberal about sex stuff. I mean, one time we were watching some news thing about the 60s and, the free love thing came out. And I asked her once about sex, I wasn't really expecting an answer. I was really expecting more of like, I'm not going to discuss that. And the answer I got from her was basically like, I don't even remember what I asked her, but it was basically, it was the 60s. I had sex with everyone. And I was like, oh, you don't want to have that moment with your mom, like thinking about her having sex with everyone, because that's terrible. Don't think about it. But so my mom was very much freewheeling hippie, former hippie. And my father came from a super conservative Seventh-day Adventist background where everything was a sin. And I think that's sort of how he fell into Scientology, was he was trying to be a rebel, was trying to be rebel cool. And, but he made it very clear to me very early on in an early age that being gay was very bad. And it was probably the worst thing that I could do to him, was to be gay. So, as I grew older and started having, feelings about things, and we all watch movies, we've all seen Top Gun, we've all seen all of the great sex scenes throughout all of cinematic history. And when those scenes would come on, I would get very red. Like even sometimes now I get flushed when the subject of sex comes up. I don't know why that is, that I have a physical reaction to it. Probably therapists out there could throw something at me here, but I'm sure it's from a bunch of other stuff. But I would get very embarrassed, especially when the women would undress. And I thought it was because I was anticipating the sexual act that was coming with the man that was coming in the room, Tom Cruise, and doing the thing with, with Kelly in Top Gun, or, whoever else, even in Far and Away. That's pretty innocent. I got flushed and I got nervous. And you know, I didn't want to admit to myself that seeing a naked woman was very exciting because I'm a woman. So why would looking at a woman be, I could just look at myself in the mirror, which I didn't do because, you know, don't want to look at that. So there was a lot of confusion going on for me. And I continued to be normal. I dated lots of guys. Hey to you guys out there. You know, and I enjoyed that. I had a lot of fun. Mostly I like to play sports with my boyfriends, you know, and which led to a lot of fights. One punch in the face. Not me to someone. I got punched in the face by one boyfriend one time because I was better at basketball than he was. So this should have been a clue to me that if I wanted to go out and play football and basketball and baseball and hang out with these guys and then maybe make out with them later, that maybe I wasn't as into them as I thought, especially when their girlfriends would sit on the sidelines during the game and I was more interested in impressing them than I was in impressing the guys that I was playing with. But anyway, I twisted myself into a gigantic pretzel on this subject. And I managed to make it out of high school a virgin. So, you know, there we are. Statistical anomaly. Someone in California made it through high school a virgin. And I moved to Southern California very shortly after that and started work at a Scientology school as the PE teacher. So, of course, I dressed myself appropriately. I bought a couple tracksuits. I got a whistle. I looked pretty much exactly like Sue Sylvester with slightly long brown hair. Okay. Still wasn't a clue to myself that I was, you know, super gay. And then 3 months after I moved here, I joined the Sea Organization. I signed my billion-year contract and I, you know, excelled at all the physical stuff. You have to do a lot of physical labor before you get in, you know, hard work. I could, you know, put all the shit together they wanted me to put together. Everything was going great. Until I had to dress professionally. So I put on my nicest silver tab jeans and my nicest t-shirt and my super new Nikes, which I was keeping tight. And yeah, they thought I looked like a lesbian. And immediately people were telling me that I was projecting a lesbian vibe in this York. Now, you have to understand that that is especially at Celebrity Center, they ask you 3 questions before you can even sign the billion-year contract about homosexuality specifically. If you have a homosexual past, if you have homosexual tendencies, or have you, do you intend to, like, you know, start being gay, essentially? And they really want to know this. They really, I mean, this is, you're asked this while getting your security clearance over and over and over again. So this is pounded into you from the minute you start work in the Sea Organization at Celebrity Center that you cannot be gay, okay? And that it's very, very bad. I had a number of knowledge reports, which is, you know, their Gestapo sort of reporting on each other, snitch culture inside Scientology. And I had a number of these reports written on me, basically to the tune of I was flirting with women. Now, I don't think I was necessarily flirting. I'm going to be honest. I was just being nice. I'm a super nice person. If you know me, I'm going to give you a hug, whether you're a man or a woman, okay? I'm a hugger. That's who I am. I'm an effusive person. I love people, all right? So this was another unacceptable thing because I'm very happy around people. I love to entertain people. I love to talk to people. So, of course, I got reports written on me about that. Anyway, fast forward, I got married. It got annulled because we didn't have sex. So go figure. That's a whole other story for another time. That's actually quite amusing but sad in the same respect. I got that marriage annulled because the guy was just a jerk. And so then I could say, oh, I wasn't married. So the first time I got married, it would be for real. And then I fell madly in love with someone, or so I thought. His name was Ryan. And we were mad for each other. We were going to get married. He gave me a gigantic diamond. It was just fairy tale kind of situation. And then one evening, a student who was slightly mentally unstable wrote notes and put them all over Celebrity Center about me. And people feared for my safety. They thought that he was going to like try and kidnap me or something. Now in Scientology, the other thing you have to know is if something happens to you, okay? If something happens to you, it is your fault. Just think on that for a minute. Okay, so you get rear-ended on the freeway. Your fault. You get a cold. Your fault. Someone smacks you in the face. Your fault. Okay? All of these things add up to being your fault. All right. So, because this guy was a psychopath and became obsessed with me, this was somehow my fault. So they started interrogating me. What are you doing that is criminal? So the only thing I could think of, because I really wasn't doing anything else except for working 15 hours a day, was that Ryan and I, despite not being married, had been getting a little hot and heavy in our makeout sessions. I'm going to admit it. There was a little, extra happening. We weren't having sex, but had he tried to take my clothes off, I'm pretty sure we would have had sex. So, of course, this is a gigantic no-no. So we were put under separation order, which means 0 contact. We are not allowed to talk to each other. We're not allowed to be in the same room as each other. We're not allowed to send a note to each other, nothing. Okay? And I was put into, basically I was punished. And I had to do, without getting into a whole Scientology explanation, I had to do an amends project 3 times in order to get out of this punishment that I was in. So it took me about 4 weeks to work through this situation and get back into good standing in my own organization. Now, meanwhile, Ryan wasn't punished at all. 0 punishment for him. So when the 4 weeks are over, I am just on top of the world. I cannot wait to see him. I have only been thinking about him for 4 weeks. It's, I got to get to him. So okay, I call him up and I say, okay, I'm all done. I'm finished. I'm so excited. Like we need to meet each other. Oh, I can't. I'm so busy. I said, oh, well, I have time. I'll just come to you. Oh, no, not tonight. I'm doing something. Oh, okay, well, maybe we'll meet on Sunday. Yeah. Okay. I guess. So I know obviously something's up, and I meet with him on Sunday, and in no uncertain terms, he lets me know that he never loved me. I'm not the right person for him. Nothing we had was actual, and that he's in love with someone else. To say that I was crushed would be an understatement. Since my father died, this was the lowest point in my life. This was the lowest I had felt. And I stayed up all night crying and throwing up, and it was very dramatic. It was very melodramatic. And I made a vow that I was never going to love another man again. Never. Was not going to happen. And so I was single, and I got new roommates. People had left the Sea organization, and I moved somehow anyway. And about 3 months into being new roommates, I got ill. And of course, you don't go to the doctor in Scientology because, who has money for that? Doctors. And so my roommate, Austin, was giving me basically like a laying on of hands type of situation. In Scientology, they're called assists. And these are meant to help relieve your body of ailments or to make you feel better if you're ill and stuff like that. So she gave me an assist, which was lovely. And I was feeling a little bit better, but very tired and just sort of fatigued. I probably had the flu. It was just I had a fever, things were bad. So she says to me, I'll tuck you in. And I thought, God, that's so nice. Like someone's taking care of me. It was like having my mom. Like, this is wonderful. Thank you. So I crawled into my bed, and you live in a dorm room, and we had 3 sets of bunk beds in our dorm. Actually, 2 at the time. So there's only 3 of us. It was me on this bottom bunk across the room, and then Austin was on the bottom bunk over here, and her sister, Aubrey, slept on the top bunk. Okay. So Austin's tucking me in, and she's, says goodnight, and I close my eyes, and I'm going to go to sleep. and she leaned down and she kissed me. And it wasn't just a like, like good night. It was a kiss. And I felt an electricity through my body that I had never felt before. And it was exciting and terrifying at the same time, mostly terrifying. And I pretty much didn't sleep after that. I was jolted awake, and then I thought, maybe I'm hallucinating. Maybe it's the fever. Maybe it's, this, that, and the other thing. And I thought, maybe it didn't even happen. Maybe I dreamt it, And the next day, everything was going normal, and we didn't talk about it or anything. And we went home, and we were going to bed. And she came to see me in my bed after everybody went to sleep. And we just sort of sat there. And it was this very electric moment of awkwardness and quiet. And I remember our hands touched, and I felt like a heat. And we kissed a bit, and that was how our relationship started. For all you pervy pervs out there that thought I was going to go full porno here, that's not what's happening. So it started off very innocently. And I loved Austin very much. I still love her very much. But it was very hard having a relationship like that because we both knew it was secret. We both wanted to be near each other all the time, but we couldn't. Because, being gay is the worst thing you can do. Even though you're not supposed to have kids in the Sea Org. And if you get pregnant, they will make you get an abortion. Okay? Even though if we were in a relationship, we're definitely not going to make each other pregnant. There's 100% chance of no pregnancy. It's still not okay. So we were in a conundrum. It made our relationship very explosive, very volatile. And for whatever reason, I had a target on my forehead from the minute I walked in because apparently everybody knew I was a lesbian except for me. Even when I was having a relationship with Austin and I was in love with her, in my mind, I was still not gay. Okay? In my mind, I was just in love with Austin. That didn't make me gay. So even then, I was still twisting myself around. So we got found out, but not really. I got tricked into confessing, essentially, because as you know, I have a very high moral compass, and I got confronted by an executive who told me everyone knew what was happening and that I should just come clean and, it's going to be better for everyone. So I believed her. And I confessed. And that, my friends, is how I ended up on the RPF. But the first thing they tried to do when they found out I was gay, okay? Firstly, of course, everyone thought I seduced Austin because clearly I am the biggest lesbian on the planet. So forget all the other lesbians out there. Apparently, I am the queen of lesbians. Apparently. Which wasn't true, as I just told you. And I'm sure Austin probably told the same story. But the first thing they tried to do is to boot me from the church and declare me persona non grata, in Scientology terms, suppressive person. They wanted to kick me out because I was gay. Even though I had given 5 years of my life to the Church of Scientology, working 15 hours a day, 7 days a week. In that 5 years, I had taken a total of probably 10 days off in 5 years, okay? And one more than that. But anyway, and part of that, 4 days of that was an emergency leave for when my father died. 4 days. 4. Yeah. So, despite all my good works, despite working with Tom Cruise's kids, with Nancy Cartwright's kids, with Catherine Bell, with Billy Sheehan, with John Travolta, Priscilla Presley, Lisa Marie's kids, all of the celebrities that I worked with and their children, all of the good works that I did, all of the people that I helped salvage into Scientology, everything I did, despite being the best at my job on the whole planet, by the way, I kissed a girl, you're out. I'll be the same, okay? So I was very nervous. That meant I was going to lose my whole family. That meant that my mother, my sister, my godparents would all stop talking to me forever. That I would never get to be a part of their lives. So that was terrifying. I mean, I had my mom's dad and my dad's parents and stuff who were never Scientologists that I could go live with. It wasn't like I was going to be homeless, but I was going to lose my main core of family and all of my friends, like every single one of them. So I was very terrified. I did not want to have that happen. So fortunately for me, I had a friend in the office that received the paperwork to try and boot me, and he said, piss off. Nora's not suppressive. She's awesome. So you have to handle this. So then the interrogations started to find out all of the intimate details of what Austin and I had been engaging in and, anything else I could think of. And then they decided to send me to the RPF. Now, let me say this about the RPF. I went from a situation where we had the dorm room, like I described to you, and we had an ensuite bathroom, okay? Because the building we lived in was a former hotel. So we were basically living in like a shitty little hotel room that was filled with bunk beds, all right? And it had a bathroom. There was no furniture, absolutely none. We had all of our stuff in like little Tupperware bins under the bed and stuff like that. So it went from a situation where when you're going to go to the bathroom or you're going to take a shower, you shut the door and then that's it. You're in the shower and your roommates can't come in. So my first night after, being found out as a lesbian and all this other hoopla, and we work our hard day's work of construction. Now we got to go shower off all of our sweat and other shit because, you got to be clean. I walk into this shower room that's essentially 7 showers and about 80 naked women walking around. Now, up until this point in my life, okay, I hadn't seen really a full naked woman outside of a movie that had full frontal for 5 seconds in my life. Okay. My sister and I didn't change in front of each other. I was that girl in the corner in the locker room, changing my bras under my shirt. Okay. This was not helpful. Okay. If this was supposed to cure me of being a lesbian, this was going in the completely opposite direction because now I was seeing stuff that I'd never seen before. And a lot of it. And we're talking girls. Some of the girls that were there, I think the youngest girl that was there was 15. And the oldest woman that was there was 68. Okay, so you've got a big range of ladies' bodies. And we had American girls, European girls, Canadian girls, South American girls. You're talking every flavor of the rainbow here. There's a lot of beautiful bodies in that shower room. So, super not helpful. So my foray, as it were, into the RPF was a disaster for me sexually. But again, I had to just shove it down. Shove it down. Austin and I were on the RPF together, so that's even better. I've never seen Austin naked up until this point, and now I see her naked all the time. Yeah. Also not helpful. But we're not allowed to talk to each other. Yeah, we were under separation order. So I'm suppressing everything. I'm confessing these things. I'm convincing myself that I'm a terrible person for the feelings that I had. Because that's, again, like I explained to you, whatever happens to you in Scientology is your fault. So if you get kissed by a girl, then it's your fault. You did that. Because that terrible thing of that girl kissing you that you liked, which compounds the sin, is your fault anyway. So, it was a terrible, terrible time in my life of mental contortionism and convincing myself that I was not a good person, really. And so at one point, after trying to escape a few times, I realized that the main thing I had to do is I had to make sure that Austin graduated the program, because that was going to be my amends. That was going to be the one thing I could do that was going to make up for who I was inside. I was broken. So I made sure. I made sure she graduated. I made sure that she did a good job and that she got through, and she graduated. And about a couple months after she graduated is when the incident happened, that's covered fully in my blog. I don't want to talk about that today. What I want to talk about is what happened after I left the Sea Org. So, cut to, I'm finally free. I'm out of the Sea Org now. Okay? No one can tell me what to do. I don't have a boss. I can go out. I can talk to whomever I want. I can do whatever I want. My family knew why I had gotten sent to the RPF, and they didn't care. My godfather, John, told me in no uncertain terms, like, listen, hey, you're gay, whatever, great, fabulous. Good for you. Do what you want. But after spending 3 years of daily reaffirmation to myself and via someone else telling me, just basically group dynamic of gay is the most evil thing in the planet, I decided I couldn't possibly be gay, because then that would mean that I'm actually evil, and they were right. So I decided, well, I know what the real problem is. I haven't had sex with a man. So that's going to handle everything. Let's do that. So I very awkwardly and terribly went about trying to find a man who wanted to have sex with me. And I really didn't think it was going to be that hard. It was a lot harder than I thought. And that didn't go very well. My sister suggested that I start dating this guy that we both mutually knew. And I had known him in the Sea Org. We'd known each other about a decade. And I thought, well, he's cute. I mean, why not? And he came over to help us move some stuff. And we went out on a date. And because we'd known each other for 10 years and we were both former Sea Org members, you really cut to the chase in the Sea Org. So I told him on our first date that I wanted to get married and have children, and I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. And if he wanted something else, then thank you very much for dinner, and, no worries. As you can see, I was a super catch. And he actually said, that's fine. I mean, I couldn't believe it. So, we started dating, and then the sex time came. And I was extremely nervous. And it was very hard for me to do that. Mostly because I was terrified. Luckily for me, he was very understanding and did not enforce on me anything that I was not wanting to do. And was a gentleman and very gentle. And because I had this goal of getting married and, having children, I married him. He's the only man I've ever been with. And I do love him because he gave me 2 beautiful children that I couldn't imagine my life without. And we are still together today. Now, you may be scratching your head. You've been talking this whole time about being gay. How is this possible that you're married to a man? Well, boys and girls out there, because I kept hurting myself mentally and telling myself that being gay was bad. Sorry. That I convinced myself that the more that I had sex, the less gay I was going to be. And it hasn't really worked out that way for me. It took many years of soul searching and sort of being willing to be comfortable with myself and be okay about myself for me to say to my husband that I'm gay. And now I'm telling all of you. To say that that conversation was a doozy would be an understatement. But again, my husband proved to be probably the most saint-like person on the whole planet, because he just told me that he loved me and that he was okay with it. So I pretty much lucked out in that department. Now, this video isn't about me totally and what I'm doing with that, because that's a whole other topic for another time. But the reason why I'm even talking about that portion of my life in this video is because I want to say that it is... I gotta get myself together here. Hang on. This is one of the many ways that Scientology is so destructive. I was physically beaten, but more than that, I was mentally imprisoned by them and then by myself, because that's how it works in Scientology. Is it starts out with them doing it to you, and then you train in how to do it to others. And while you're doing that training, you are doing it to yourself. And the worst thing that you can do in the whole world is to harm yourself, is to convince yourself that you're not worthy, that you're less than a human, that you're a bad person because of how you feel on the inside, because of who you're attracted to. And it can make life hell. It can make it it can make it miserable. And it's not worth it. It's not worth it to yourself. And it doesn't help you to live a good life, to put yourself into a gigantic ball of knots. And Scientology does this with everyone who's a part of it. Some people, they twist into knots on the subject of sex. Some people, they twist into knots on the subject of ego, or pick a subject on any subject. But they take what should be good, what should be pure love, and they make it into a terrible thing, into something that's wrong. And they use it to torture people. They use it to harm people. And when I say to you, people out there on the internet and the YouTube arena, that Scientology is dangerous, that it is, in my opinion, the single most dangerous cult on the planet, I'm saying that from a point of experience. And when I see people who are gay, who are being tortured the way I was, it makes me so angry and so sad. And when I see other people like Laura Prepon, who is playing a very iconic gay role on television, it makes me furious. Because here she is on Orange is the New Black, you know, playing Alex, and she's this, you know, lesbian extraordinaire. And here she is at her church learning that lesbians are evil and talking about that in a way that can only be described as grotesque, and promoting Scientology in the same breath that she promotes Orange is the New Black. When I see that, that's how twisted, that's how crazy it is in Scientology, okay? They will lie to Laura Prepon's face. They will say, of course we love gay people. We love everybody. Gay people are fabulous. We don't have a problem with gay people. What are you talking about? That's ridiculous. I don't know why anybody would say that. Oh, you saw a YouTube video from Nora Crest? Oh, well, we got a foul right here on her. Let me tell you about Nora. She is cray McCrarson. And I'm sure they do have a file. I'm sure they have a gigantic file of all of my crimes against humanity. One of those crimes is being gay. So yeah. Laura Prepon, if you're watching this, or any fans of Orange is the New Black, send this video to Laura Prepon. Let her know what she's actually doing by promoting Scientology. She's promoting evil. She's promoting mental torture and physical imprisonment. And they do this by aberrating, their word, sex. Okay? Sex has a purpose, according to L. Ron Hubbard, and that is the procreation of children. And unless you're procreating children, there is no other reason to have sex. So think about that. Don't have a good time. Don't feel good, because sex is pain. That's what L. Ron Hubbard says. Sex is pain, and pain is down tone. So just think about that. Every time you've had sex, today, this week, this month, you were just having pain, not pleasure. Forget about all the orgasms you had or gave to someone else. You were only experiencing pain or giving someone else pain. That's what you're supposed to feel like in Scientology about sex. That's why sex is bad. And homosexuality is just the worst because, gross. Wish I'd said that last part before I started crying. Anyway. My final message on this video for anybody watching is that I'm okay. As a note, I have a good life. I have my family. I have my kids. And I have a lot of love and support around me. So I'm good. For the people out there who don't have that, look me up. I'm here for you. Okay? And to anyone who is secretly watching this video, who's in Scientology or in the Sea Org, just know that you can make it through. You can make it. It can be done. It gets better.